That photo looks familiar. Welcome back, troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. Just like last year, let's do it again. The most expensive Gibsons currently on Reverb. But before we start this journey, let's take a look at this article, the most expensive gear to sell on Reverb in 2021. So I was looking at this a couple of days ago. I was like, okay, we've got Robbie Robertson's gear, all right. We've got a 1954 Fender Stratocaster. It's got some cool wood grains going on. We got a 57 gold top. We've got an Explorer. That photo looks familiar. I unexpectedly broke a record on Reverb this year. Yeah, this was mine. My 2021 Gibson Collector's Edition Korina Murphy Explorer. But I just found that so hilarious because everything else on here is like, 1959 D'Angelico, 1958 Stratocaster mint condition, 54 Strat from the Fender Certified Vintage Program, 57 gold top. Like everything here was 50s vintage. And then you just get this one random 2021 thing. Manufactured collectability. I just found that kind of funny. In all seriousness, though, that was a fantastic Explorer. And I'm sure they'll just keep going up and up and up in value. Because if you thought me getting that price was crazy, they've actually sold for more than that after that. That's how desperate collectors are for these, even though they're initially only $30,000 brand new, if you were lucky enough to buy one. So yes, surprise, surprise, we've got a couple of bursts on here. First one being offered by Emerald City Guitars, $425,000. If I remember correctly, the most expensive burst last year was $400,000. But to be honest, a price on a burst is very subjective, so somebody could say that $400,000 one's worth $450,000. It's only worth that if somebody ends up paying it. This particular one appears to be in pretty good shape. It's got a very legible serial number. It's got some neck wear on it. And when you're spending this much money on a guitar, you might want one in cleaner shape. But this, for a 59, is actually in decent shape, all things considered. Though if I was shopping for a burst today, probably not my favorite top. But this one's almost half price, a 1960 at $260,000. It's almost got some bird's eye figuring going on it. That's pretty nice. It's very vibrant and cherry, as a lot of the 60s will be because they changed up the aniline die structure. This is one of those ones that probably looks a lot better in person rather than photos, because I can just tell this wood grain had come to life in natural sunlight just in your hands. I mean, you've got some edge wear right here that you would expect to see. And obviously, none of this is an endorsement of it actually being original or anything. But whoa, somebody railroad track refretted that. That's gotta hurt the value considerably. Like, it's one thing to refret it and have period correct style frets, but those giant ones, that's not gonna be everybody's cup of tea. But why is this one so relatively cheap? Aha, some stolen trebles where somebody erased the serial number and it looks like they might have reinstalled it. Okay, yeah, messing with the serial number at any point in time is a very bad thing for a guitar's value. And it's just bad mojo to buy a defaced serial numbered guitar. That really stinks. But this one offered by Rumble Seat Music, like if I was gonna get a burst, it'd be something similar to this. I vaguely remember, wasn't this one in last year's episode? This is exactly what I think of when I think a burst. But oh, this one has a black stinger. Interesting. And to wrap up burst talks, here's another kind of like a bird's eye flamey top for a 1958. Well, I gotta say, this one's actually pretty nice too. Isn't it pretty uncommon to still have a 58 that has the cherry sunburst finish on it too? I mean, I like the lemon bursts that have all the flame and everything, but I think this one would definitely be nice in a collection. Seems to be relatively affordable as compared to what some people are asking. And of course, you've got a few other cheaper bursts, such as this 58 that doesn't have a whole lot of figuring, but it's still nice. But I think I'd rather have a house than one of these. Next up, we've got Eric's EMS guitars at Abalone Vintage. Let's take a look at a few of these because we've seen them on the channel before. Now this one's a double mandolin. That's cool. 8-string and a 4-string. And it appears to be in insanely clean shape. That's a cool little beast. As compared to this one, which is a 6-string guitar and 6-string mandolin. He's just got all the cool, quirky vintage stuff. Speaking of mandolins, at $177,000, we got this F5 Lloyd Loar vintage mandolin. I know these things can go for crazy money, but are they really worth that much? It's not a market I participate in, so I wouldn't really know. But for the age of this, it definitely is a nice example and has not been worn into much. Let's check out this Cherry Custom. So generally, Les Paul Black Beauties from the late 50s, they came in black, but there's a few documented runs of export models that were done up in this translucent cherry finish. So this is one of those guitars that a collector would purchase because they want a Les Paul custom in a unique finish, because generally something like this, between 40 and 80,000 depending on condition. But again, I don't really participate in the true vintage market, so that's just speculation based on what I've seen. Feel like we've talked about this one before. A complete 1994 Gibson Centennial collection. These things were 10 grand brand new, each and every example. Generally, they don't sell too well on the used market. Like obviously things like the Les Paul Custom and the L5, and maybe even the Les Pauls, they can get close to that amount. But generally speaking, this run of guitars was a terrible investment, even before you account for inflation. But it looks like they're asking brand new price for each and every single one of them. And granted, as a collector, if you just want to buy something so you have the entire thing, it kind of makes sense because you don't have to hunt in each and every single one down. I mean, I'd consider paying something like $72,000 for the set, just for the novelty of having all these in one video. But even if offered to me at that price, I'd still have to think about it. But hey, topping our list, we've got one of the original Snakepits. Now this one is priced way more than it would likely sell for, based on past sales, but it's probably at least a $50,000 guitar. However, with so few on the market, I mean, if you're the only guy selling, you're the guy that controls the prices. So if somebody wants one of these, they're gonna have to pay close to your asking price. It seems like a lot of people have been writing product reviews trying to get them to take down the fake photos of this one ever since this video and the whole story, in case you missed that one. Yeah, that's not a real Snakepit in these photos. However, that's probably not the right place to put it because now people think Snakepit guitars are just garbage. But yeah, the last one to sell was in 2019 at $32,000. Hey, let's check out this Firebird. I've been really digging Firebirds lately, so this is a Firebird V. Let me tell you, in my short 2-month span of really starting to fall in love with these Firebirds, finding vintage Firebird 5s and 7s is really difficult. Especially if you want a custom color one like this one. I mean, if you want a Firebird 1 or a Firebird 3, you can buy those things all day long as you have 15 grand. But to find a 5 or a 7, they just don't show up, even if you have the money to get them. Now, granted, if you call around to certain guitar stores, maybe they have them hiding away, but it's been my short experience here that you just don't find them too often. Now, this one is clean and they want 6 figures for it. Speaking of other crazy collections, here's that Zakk Wylde one still for sale. Wow, I can't believe it. It's been over 2 years now. It feels like it was just yesterday this huge collection was listed. I remember at one point in time I had a video plan to go through and say, is this guitar collection worth it or not? I mean, I think the hardest part is to find somebody who would actually want all of these. Like most collectors, they just want like one of each model. They don't need multiples and multiples of them, despite some being signed, some not being signed. I guess it depends on how big of a Zakk Wylde fan you are. But it is quite the impressive display that they've got going on here with all of these different models, including some pretty rare ones like this one, and some early versions of his own Wylde Audio brand ones. It does appear that they've since updated their listing to tell you everything that is included, which I think is a good idea. I mean, it's listed at $119,000, but hey, at least you get free shipping, which, I mean, shipping amps on top of all the guitars from Korea to the United States or wherever anybody's buying this thing from. I don't doubt that he probably could have sold everything by now if he would have listed them separately. Here we've got an art guitar, Super 400 style. So I initially had this thing saved in my watch list a while ago because I'm acquainted with the custom shop carver that does these types of works. And I just thought this shop is doing no justice for this guitar. You got your fleur-de-lis style inlay up here. And it's all fancy looking with your fancy Gibson logo. But you really can't see the carvings very well or depict what it's even saying here. I'm not sure if it's the lighting or if it's just the fact that the guitar got finished in such a dark color. It just seems a shame that Rick spent so much time carving this and then you can't really even see the design. But it was probably custom ordered in this very dark wine red finish without them knowing that that's exactly what's going to happen to the carvings on the top. But hey, we're starting to break into 335s. Currently asking $88,500, we have a 335 Stinger Natural Blonde. Okay, so we've got the long style pickguard. A slightly figured top. Unfortunately, it was Bigspeed. Probably been refretted because those are pretty tall. Headstock's looking quite nice, and it's got the stinger, as they were saying. However, what bugs me on that is it's not centered properly. I don't like that. Okay, Mr. Exaggerated Listing guy. Has anybody legitimately started to cry when they plugged a guitar in? Like maybe if it was their long lost guitar that they haven't played in 30 plus years. Let's see, what do we got going on here? Les Paul Hard Rock Cafe Custom Guitar, 1999. I've been teaching you guys about these promotional guitars lately, right? Just because they're limited edition does not mean that they're necessarily more desirable than a standard one, because it's basically just a walking advertisement. However, Hard Rock Cafe is a big thing, so it might have some pedigree outside of just being an advertisement. What makes this one particularly interesting is the fact that they have the wordings along here and they have additional layers of binding to set that off. It makes it an interesting guitar. Yeah, this is the one that has the pearloid back and the back plates. Here's a good look at those multi-layers of binding within here. And then you even have a heel cap on the back. So this reminds me a lot of those lady guitars that they did in the late 80s. They had a back like that and they would have a pinup girl on it. They even have that like Gretsch-like binding along the neck. And this one's number 1, so that means they might have made another one. But they're asking $82,000. That's a tough one. Because sure, it's an advertisement, but it's a little bit fancier than a regular Les Paul Custom. So I would probably still put it in that $10,000 to $20,000 range personally. That might be a tad bit low. But you'd have to find the very right guy who loves the Hard Rock Cafe. Looks like we still have the Glitter Girls for sale, a 1989 potential one-off. So we have a separate episode on this one. And you guys remember Randy Leonard, right? He actually has photos of this guitar when it was first sent out, or at least one that looks exactly like this. And it did not leave the factory like this. We were kind of questioning why this was an off-white color, whereas everything else was still kind of white. That's because at one point in time, somebody added these additional colors to the design that was carved into the top. So yes, it is a Gibson one-off. It just didn't leave the factory like this, and it kind of starts to explain this finish checking and whatnot. However, you do not find many art guitars being born in the late 80s. Oh, hey, yeah, that's just what we were talking about, the ladies on the back. And you can see that's actually real celluloid. It's shrinking and cracking and discoloring and off-gassing, as you can see right here. Kind of like what we were talking about on that Firebird, the snakeskin one. All right, let's skip down to just some kind of interesting ones, because a lot of this stuff really is the same things that were listed last year. We've got an L5 Clear from 1941. Is it a plastic body? Like the headstock looks nice and fancy, but generally you think L5, super fancy. Why would you want cheap looking plastic? The seller believes it's made of lucite, and then they did the bindings of celluloid. Kind of an interesting piece nowadays, but I don't really know what they were thinking back then. Maybe there was a wood shortage, or they were just trying to make it cheaper to produce. Here's a The Les Paul. This thing's actually been for sale for quite some time. I've been watching it, hoping it would go down to reasonable guitar values. However, there were not very many wine red ones made. And outside of the Steve Howe The Les Paul that I had owned and sold, that's one of the only wine red ones to show up in a while outside of this one. But who knows, maybe if they hold on to this one for a couple more years, it might actually end up becoming worth that much, because it's only priced about $15,000 more than a regular one would sell for today. Here's kind of an interesting arch top. 1981, $30,000. I mean, outside of the Les Pauls and high-end Citations, you don't see much that touches those kinds of prices from the 80s. So this is like a really, really fancy L5 style guitar, right? They've got the fancy inlay there. They've got the flamed pickguard. It's kind of a boring red top in my opinion, but then you look at that back, it's all quilted out to the extreme. They don't even have a heel cap on this one. It's just part of the back. That's cool. I'd imagine your sides are very similarly quilted, but these fancy jazz box guitars, they always just go for a more plain looking top because they want their spruce, right? But then you look at the headstock, that's all fancy with the abalone inlays, the old style, the Gibson logo. Got Gary's name on here. How doesn't that work well for Gary's classic guitars? I don't think that was his. That's just probably whoever custom ordered the guitar. But check out your inlays. It's like the J200 Cloud style. But then, once they would get too small, they decided, why don't we just make them the blocks? But then I always love guitars that look like this. They've got the back that also has the veneer that the top has. So it's like you got the double headstock, man. So the Gibson back here, same inlay. But now, not only do you get the custom shop edition decal, but you also get the reg number in the mother of pearl plaque, just like you found on the Les Paul, really high-end guitars. On top of that, Kluson seal fast tuners, 5-piece neck all flamed out like you've never seen. This is just such a very, very cool example of a guitar. I mean, high-end arch tops have always interested me, but I feel like if you can't play like a jazz great, you have no business owning one of these things. I suppose before we close out today, let's check out some of the Fender high-priced ones. Starting here, Fender Custom Shop The Complete Diamond Collection. All right. I'll be honest, I don't know a lot about all of these, but I definitely know this guitar and that it sells for quite a bit of money. That's the Marilyn Monroe Pinup Girl one. Then I think we briefly talked about this. I didn't realize it was a complete collection. So we've got the Harley Davidson Stratocaster. It has the bird's eye maple neck and a chrome aluminum body, it appears. That's pretty sweet. The Monterey Festival Stratocaster. Very similar appointments to that last one as far as the neck goes. Can't show you the full photos of this one, but it is on Reverb if you want to check it out. But honestly, the neck really isn't that good on that one. And I've always kind of liked this one. It's got the same body as that other one, but just a little bit more of an Aloha vibe, including on your 12th fret inlay. And something kind of similar on this one, but it's just a flame top. That one doesn't really do anything for me. And then you just get something a little bit more traditional. Looks like maybe Aztec gold, slightly relict gold hardware. That looks pretty nice. I don't know if I'd pay crazy collectible value for that one, but that is cool to see all of them together. So apparently this guy was a dealer and he just held his back because he didn't want to sell them for the current day pricing. They first started them in 1994. It was like 2 per year, something like that. And some of these have gone on to be very collectible. So it's one of those, I mean, when else can you buy a brand new condition set nowadays? You just can't. I mean, I think technically he's the original dealer, so you might be able to register them for warranty because they're basically like new old stock. I'm not sure how that would work. If nothing else, it's an attention-getting piece for the store. But now, look at this. I think this is a screaming deal. Someone needs to jump on this. A brand new Fender American Professional 2 Stratocaster. Has the resale market gone too far? A brand new one of these in store at a dealer. You don't have to wait for it to come in stock. It's new old stock from 2020. Only $170,000. I don't know about you guys, but I think somebody has made a grave error somewhere. Maybe it's meant to be $1,699.99. Or maybe this is just some sort of an in-joke because this is Haggerty's Music Works. Over here we've got Nikolai's from Italy. Same thing going on, $135,000 for a regular Tom Morello Stratocaster. It's not like the auctioned off ones where he wrote Soul Power on it, where maybe somebody that has crazy money to spend might want it. I mean, this is what was it, a $2,000 guitar, something slightly less than that. It wasn't my favorite Stratocaster in the world, but you can check out the review and demo to learn more about it. And it looks like that same shop also has one of the Chrissie Hynde Telecasters. I did like this guitar. That was an impressive piece for the money. Might not be everybody's first signature artist that they think of when they think of a guitar. Not $135,000 though. But ooh, another one of the Korina body Stratocasters, $130,000 on this one. However, Korina bodies are interesting because you don't see that too often on Stratocasters. Basically, the story goes is Leo Fender just happened to get a batch of Korina and so he used them for Stratocasters, is what I understand it from what we've talked about earlier in the year. There was an auction that had one of these. I was really hoping to win it, but then it just skyrocketed in value. So how much does this guy want? Pretty close to what that auction one went for. I think it was like 90 or 100,000. Well, it looks like the Payola style Telecaster is still here. We had a separate review and demo on that earlier. But I think for our last one, I want to look at this. 1971 Fender Telecaster Thinline. Kelly Green. Are they trying to tell me this is the factory original finish? Because if so, that is pretty darn bizarre, especially if it came from the factory with a purple pickguard. So according to Mike and Mike's Guitar Bar, with the introduction of the Thinline model, Fender rolled out a custom slate of colors for this new Tele iteration, which included a salmon, hot pink, canary yellow, lavender, lilac, and this Kelly Green. So apparently it's hard to even find photos of these things, so a lot of people just don't know about them. So here's a yellow one. Now seeing something like this in the wild, I would think, okay, that's a nice custom color, but not unbelievable. Oh, and I think I might have found one of the lavender lilacs. Ooh, I really, really like this color. Yeah, so we found another colored pickguard. That's really cool. I want one of these now. I think I'd rather have the lavender lilac because that matches a bit better, but this has like some flower vibes to it. Looks like the last lavender lilac to sell was around 12,000 bucks. And that much for one of these is quite a bit to pay, but I mean, if it really left the factory like that, that is really cool and probably worth it. But this one did have some modifications. I think I'm gonna have to do some more research and learning into these things because that is a new rare model Telecaster that I did not know about before today. So if nothing else, hey, we learned that. All right, troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will catch you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.